Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Assalamu alaikum to all the students present over here and to the live audience as well that we have. I'm going to have to introduce myself again because we're going live. My name is Komal Rizwan and I'm going to be here for the next 2 hours, and we are going to go over SAT English section. We are going to cover the essay, the writing and language section, and the reading section, which is the critical reading comprehension section. Yeah. Please quickly settle down. Okay, so just a quick overview of SAT. It's an aptitude test, but I hear a lot of questions. Students wonder whether it's a fair enough test. I mean, do you really need SAT to enter university? Is it fair to be tested in 3 hours and 50 minutes and be judged whether you're capable of becoming a part of a particular university or not? And you guys are right in questioning that. But at the same time, remember that it's an aptitude test, right? It is designed in such a way that it tests your skills and it tests how you respond to pressure. And College Board, by the way, has designed SAT. They plan all the curriculum, all the material, which is available online as well. And a number of teachers, they have registered about 6,000 plus schools, colleges, and universities across the world. And they do know what is required for your university life and for your careers. So the skill set that is being tested is going to help you in your university as well as your career, right? So, which is why it is an important test. And you need to develop the skills that this particular test will question you on, right? Moving on to the pattern of SAT. So there are 4 sections: reading, writing, maths, and essay. We have gone through this detail, but let me just quickly do a review. We have 65 minutes for the reading section, and you have 52 questions. And like we did the math, you don't have more time for one question. You have 1 minute and something seconds for one question, right? Similarly, for writing section, we have even less time. That's 35 minutes and 44 questions, about 47 seconds per question. Maths section has 58 questions and 80 minutes, and the essay is going to be 50 minutes long. You will have 50 minutes to write down a response to a prompt that will be given to you. We will begin today's session with the essay. I'm going to tell you how are you going to be scored on the essay, what are the skills that are going to be tested in the essay section first. All right, so let's begin. So the essay first, reading and then writing. Okay, the essay portion is not compulsory otherwise. However, for LUMS, essay is compulsory. Not just LUMS, there are some other universities as well that require SAT. SAT, by the way, is accepted in universities in Canada and in USA as well. So if you plan on applying abroad, this is obviously going to be your entry to any university abroad. So if you're unsure as to whether university requires essay or not, I think it's always advisable that you do appear for the essay as well, just in case. Okay. The passages are authentic texts that have previously been published. So the passages that are on the slides right now, this passage is basically what you will be given to read, analyze, and write a response on. Okay. You are not supposed to write an essay from the scratch. Okay. It's not going to be a descriptive essay, not a narrative, not an argumentative. But yes, it's a response to an essay that's written. So let's say I usually call it the intellectual kung fu, right? Because you are the ones who are checking the essay and checking whether the author has really used all the stylistic elements, the argumentative elements, the reasoning, and whether he has done a good job or not. So whether you think he has made his point or not. So you are the judge here, and you will be checking his essay and writing a response on that. You must read and produce a written analysis. We've discussed this. You're not to write your own opinion. This is very important. So I remember checking a few essays back in, I think, NOP session when we had it in LUMS. So the first time students wrote their essays, they ended up writing their own opinion about their topic. So for example, let's say the argument that the author is trying to make is, let me write on the board. Artificially lit rooms do not make good classrooms. Okay? Now this is a claim that the author is making. He's saying that this, for example, is an artificially lit room, right? And let's say the author is saying, I just made this up, by the way. It's not a fact. Check it. But let's say artificially lit rooms do not make better classrooms. And the author is trying to convince you, the reader, that this is the case. What will he do? How will he convince you? Any responses quickly? Yes? He will provide facts and figures. Thank you. So in order for the reader to be convinced, he needs to give certain evidences, certain types of evidences. Maybe statistics, maybe facts, maybe an opinion of somebody who has an authority on this particular area, you know. So you are going to check whether the author has made enough evidences or given you enough reasoning to prove that artificially lit rooms are not good classrooms, or they do not make good classrooms. But you are not going to write down your own opinion about it. So let's say, what is your opinion on this particular thing? What do you think on this? Okay, but do you feel happier in a sunlit room? No. Okay, so that's her opinion, right? She does not agree with it, so she cannot write this in the essay. She cannot write that I personally disagree with the author. You're not supposed to write your opinion, okay? You're only going to check what the author has written. How has he convinced it? Take yourself outside, out of it, right? But yes, we do need your opinion on one thing, and that is how the author has conveyed his point. And that goes in the last paragraph of your essay. Use textual evidence to support main ideas. When you start writing a response, you are going to use textual evidence from the essay, right? So for example, in this essay, where the author is trying to prove this point that artificially lit rooms do not make good classrooms, let's say the author has used the evidence that, and I will just make it up, okay, that students who sit in artificially lit rooms were unable to perform well in a test as compared to a classroom where students of the same IQ, same average IQ, they were able to perform better. Okay? Now this is just an evidence that I just made up. What you will do is, when writing the essay, you will use this evidence, you will cite, you will quote it, and you will say that the author has given this evidence to prove the point that artificially lit rooms do not make good classrooms. You see what we've done? So you're going to use the evidence that he has written there, you're going to write it yourself, and you're going to make a link to how is he trying to convince the point. Okay? And evaluation. So based on the skills shown in reading, analysis, and writing, let's move on to, I want you to see this first, and then we will go back to that slide. So these three things are to be tested in the essay, okay? Reading, analysis, and writing. What comes, and the marks, 4 marks. So it doesn't really mean that you get 4 marks. It has a range from 1 to 4, okay? So reading 1 to 4 scoring, analysis के लिए भी 1 to 4 and writing 1 to 4 marks. So minimum mark is 1, maximum mark is 4. And obviously you need the maximum mark, right? Okay. Does anyone know what comes under the section reading? What does reading test you? What is this? Yes?
Understand the passage.
Sorry?
Understand the passage.
A different passage?
Understand
Understand the passage. Very good. What's your name? Thank you, Anas. Right. Your understanding of the passage. How well have you comprehended the main assertion that the author is trying to make? So again, going to the artificially lit rooms, the assertion is that artificially lit rooms do not make good classrooms. So you need to understand this, first of all. And then you need to understand what different stylistic elements he is using and what's the link. You know, how is he trying to convince you using all of those. How can you understand the passage better if the language is difficult, for example? So this passage is not that long, okay? These passages are authentic texts that have been published. Again, they could be from social science, they could be from history, they could be related to English literature, anything from US, exactly like the reading passages, okay? So the text is not going to be as unfamiliar to you people. But what do you do if you do not understand the passage? You reread it, okay? You have about 50 minutes for this section. And what I would suggest you guys is, so out of the 50 minutes that you have, what you can do is read 8 to 10 minutes. Okay? Take 8 to 10 minutes to read the passage. Then plan. You are going to write down, maybe make a mind map or make bullet points, that what exactly are you going to write in the essay, paragraph by paragraph. What comes in the introductory paragraph? What comes in the body paragraphs? How many paragraphs are you supposed to make? And then what will go in the conclusion? This planning requires at least 8 to 10 minutes as well. And remember, if you rush through this and you start writing, you will be in a mess, right? You will be in trouble because you would not know what should come after what, and the flow of ideas will not be natural, okay? So you need to plan first, cannot emphasize more on this. So you read, you plan, and then you write. And for writing, I would say 30 to 34 minutes. Okay? So roughly, this should be the plan. Okay. You can see in front of you a question. So I couldn't really have the entire essay on the slide, but this is so up till here, you have the last paragraph, okay? And then after the last paragraph, you get a question. The trick is to go straight to the question, okay? Do not read the essay first, read the question first, okay? What this will do is you would know exactly in a minute what the author is trying to prove. So can anybody loudly read the question for me? Sorry? Yes. So the text in the box is the question. All right? But you don't have a mic, so I'll do it myself. Thank you. Write an essay in which you explain how Peter Goodman builds an argument to persuade his audience that the news organizations should increase the amount of professional foreign news coverage provided to people in the United States. In your essay, now this is the point. This is extremely important. Focus. In your essay, analyze how Goodman uses one or more of the features listed in the box above or features of your own choice to strengthen the logic and persuasiveness of his argument. Be sure that your analysis focus on the most relevant features of the passage. Get it? So from here in this question, sabse pehle you get to know that what is the assertion that he's trying to make? What is the claim that he's trying to make? Kya claim hai? He's saying that news organizations should increase the amount of professional foreign news coverage provided to people in the US. This is what he's trying to convince you on. It's an argumentative essay, right? So you are going to see what elements has he used. Okay. Let's read this. So understanding and comprehension of the text, like I said, is extremely important. You will read the entire passage. You will make reading summaries. Do you know what reading summaries are, right? Okay. When you read one paragraph, you make bullets for yourself, okay? So that you understand that this passage is saying that XYZ things happened. So that you understand when you go on writing, you wouldn't have to read it all over again, okay? So make reading summaries as you proceed. Secondly, when you read the question first, you would obviously know what to look for. You know the argument. What you have to do is identify the stylistic elements that the author has used. As soon as you identify the stylistic elements, the next step is you make a connection. You connect it to the main topic, to the question. You go back to the question, okay? And obviously, do not make factual errors. Sometimes students tend to write in their response something that is not even there in the essay, right? So, for example, the author did not give a particular reasoning, but you misunderstood it because you did not give much attention to the reading part of it. You misunderstood it and you wrote it in your essay. You wrote something that was not even there, okay? So you are supposed to avoid that. Write only what's there. Do not make any factual errors. This is going to cost you your marks. Okay, what else? So in the analysis section, this is the most important one actually, so let's do this in detail. There's this acronym that I usually tell my students. It's RCDTTL. If you want to note this down, you can. R is for relevance. Okay? By relevance, I mean you are going to analyze. In this part, analysis part, you are going to analyze whether the author has presented relevant facts, evidences, opinions or not. Is he even relevant to the point that he's trying to make? You know, for example, if I say that, just an example, that working women make better mothers, okay? I just made this up again. And let me ask you this now. You are going to tell me whether this, what could be relevant to this now? What could be a relevant evidence to this? Working women make better mothers. What could be a relevant evidence for this? Just make it up. Yes, somebody else please. Thank you, Anas. Somebody else. Which example? Okay, any fact from the daily life or any example from the daily life? Yes, please. Okay, you can mention the hardships that working women face. Fine. And? I'm sorry? Report cards of the children. Interesting. So you have evidence. Very smart. So you can show report cards of the children of working women and you can prove a point that they make better mothers. However, that is relevant. However, if I say that the children of working women watch more television than of those who are not working, is this relevant to what we're trying to say? No, right? So it's irrelevant. So when you read the essay, you will be able to figure out what's relevant, what's irrelevant, and you will be able to write this as a weakness of the author, right? So relevance there. Number 2, citations. Citations are basically references. So let's say if the author has presented any facts. I literally just made up 2 facts. But this is wrong, you know. When the author is presenting you a fact on the essay, in the essay, he is supposed to tell you from where did he get that particular information, okay? And you are supposed to check from where did he get the information in order to truly accept the credibility of what's on the paper, okay? So references and citations are extremely important. The author in his essay needs to tell you from where did he get this information from. Okay, if he has gotten this from any website, if he has gotten this from any journal that was published, or any essay any thesis essay, or could be anything like that. So citation is very important. Next, this D is for different perspectives. For example, there's a gender war going on, a debate, right? And so I'm saying that, no, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying as an example, that women are better drivers, you know? And I prove my point, and I quote examples of my friends who are very good drivers. I quote example of, let's say, a teacher who I know is a very good driver, and I quote some facts from a women magazine. What's going on here? Biased. Good. I am only presenting one perspective. I am not mentioning another perspective, right? So if the author, you feel that he has only presented one perspective throughout the essay to convince his point, and he has not even mentioned another perspective, that is a weakness, and you need to write that in your response, okay? So to have different perspectives is a strength, right? And if the author has presented contradictory perspectives and yet maintained his own opinion, that is perfectly fine. That is how an academic essay should be. So you should write, A is this, B is this, however, you decide logically and then you give your own opinion, okay? Otherwise, if you only stick to one perspective, that is a very biased piece of essay. Or a debate, if you guys have any MUNs. All right, what else are you supposed to do? You are supposed to take note of different stylistic elements that the author has used, and they come over here in tone. Okay? What is the overall tone of the passage? So if, for example, sometimes what authors do, they try to convince you using emotional appeal. They would use flowery, they would use flowery language to convince you, or they would use rhetorical question. So let's say if I'm talking about children's rights, and if the essay is about children's rights, so in order for the reader to get convinced, let's say the author says, how can you see these children not studying in schools? You know what he's doing here? He is trying to convince you, instigate you emotionally so that you agree to what he's saying, okay? So you need to see the tone, the overall tone, the language that he's using, and you're supposed to take note of that and write that, because stylistic elements will get you marks, okay? What else? Persuasive elements, stylistic elements, we've covered that. Read actively, not passively, you guys know that. References, tone, and diction. sometimes the diction basically is language, right? The kind of words that the author has used. These are usually descriptive words, but sometimes you need to see कि ये जो descriptive words होते हैं which authors use, they have negative or positive connotations, okay? And you need to pick and understand, analyze whether a particular descriptive word that he is using has a negative connotation or a positive connotation, okay? And you need to write that down as well. Let's move on to writing. Okay, before we go over there, there's one more, I missed this, sorry. Types of evidences. So there's not just one facts, right? There are different types of evidences. Statistics, facts, different opinions, anecdotes, examples, you know, and a variety of all of these types of evidences only make the essay stronger. You know, if you're only writing down facts, statistics, etc., and you're not analyzing it, you're not giving reasoning, you are not giving your own opinion about it, making sense out of it, of course it's going to be a very weak essay, okay? So a mix of evidences is going to be there. And the last one is level of expertise. So level of expertise of the author in that particular subject area. And this usually is unclear because obviously when you read one-paged essay, you cannot really tell sometimes whether the author is really expert at that. But so the safe answer is always that the level of expertise is unclear. And over here, for your understanding, level of expertise means the authority of the author on that particular subject matter. Okay? How well informed is he? How good a research he has done? And how well has he written it? And this usually comes in the last paragraph. All right. And another thing that comes in the tone, I'm sorry, I missed it earlier, and that is the use of exclamation marks, right? When you are looking at the stylistic elements, don't just look at the language that he is using, but also the kind of, so let's say if he has an exclamation mark and he's making analogies as well, so he's also using different kinds of stylistic elements and linguistic elements, okay? Let's come to writing now, which will actually tell you how you're going to write your essay. Writing, you will, so let's say, okay. Is this going to be covered on the, I think this side of the board is not visible in the live session, so we're not going to do that. Let's do it orally. Okay, so writing, you get 4 marks, a good score if you write really well. If your sentence structures are good, if the overall structure of your essay is good, if the introductory paragraph is good, if you have written a good enough thesis statement, if you have not done any grammatical mistakes, all of that matters. So the flow, the way you write, grammar, and of course, your understanding of the passage. So through writing, you're going to show how well you've understood the passage, right? So that's that. What should come in the first paragraph? Thesis statement. Thesis statement क्या होगी? Thesis statement में आपने ये लिखना है कि author का main claim क्या है? What is he trying to prove? And उसने कौन से elements use करके अपना point prove किया है? Okay? जब आप ऐसे पढ़ लोगे, you will be able to tell which 2 to 3 elements did he continuously or repetitively used. Okay? So the thesis statement is going to be, have you guys noted this down? Can I erase this? Thesis statement is equals to the assertion And by assertion here, I mean the claim that the author is trying to make, which you will also find on the question. Plus the devices that the author, has used to prove his point. And then throughout your essay, you are going to prove your point that yes, he used very aggressive language, or he used an emotional appeal to convince the reader. Get it? Or he used a positive language, etc. And you're going to convince your examiner that he has done this. Apart from the first paragraph, I think body mein you guys can have 2 to 4 paragraphs, and then the conclusion. Okay, so a total of 5, max 6, not 6, let's say 5-ish paragraphs. Okay, so one introductory paragraph in which you are going to write down about your understanding of the passage, what is there in the passage, and one thesis statement. Thesis statement is basically the assertion that the author is making and the devices that he has used. Then you can choose one device per paragraph, and you can give examples and quote evidences from the essay. Pick up stuff, pick up sentences, pick up evidences, write that in your essay, and then make reasoning. And then tell that the author is doing this in order to convince us about this particular point. Clear? Any questions? Any questions? None? Okay, we have 2. Yes.
Some more examples of stylistic and persuasive elements.
Okay, I will. Another question? Okay. So the first question was, can you give more examples of persuasive elements? And what do I mean by persuasive elements? Okay. Sometimes the author would use different logical reasonings to convince his point. I gave you guys one example of emotional appeal, right? So he would say, why would you, how could you, or how can you see these young children not going to schools, right? So he is trying to convince you using emotional appeal. That is one, okay? Other than that, there's one called ethos. And that is when the author is trying to convince you about a particular point only because he has an authority, or only because he has quoted another authority figure, okay? Or there's one called patriotic approach. So for example, the author can say that anyone who does not agree with this idea is not patriotic. So that would literally instigate you and question you as to whether you are patriotic or not. And the author is very cleverly trying to convince the reader and getting them to agree to him by saying that you will not be patriotic if you do not agree to this. Get it? So these are the different persuasive elements that the author will use, right? And you, as a student, you, as a test taker, are basically supposed to analyze and figure out, identify what are the devices that he has used. And that answers your question as well. These devices are linguistic devices, stylistic devices, persuasive elements, or logical reasoning, right? So all of that over here. There's one thing that we've missed, and that's avoid vague diction. When you are writing your essay, please avoid unnecessarily flowery language. Keep it simple, basic good grammar, correct sentence structures. Avoid repetition. Students tend to repeat a lot of points. So in the essay, avoid repetition. And you can avoid repetition only if you plan your essay, right? So give 8 to 10 minutes to reading the passage, then 8 to 10 minutes in planning the essay, and then the last 30 minutes in writing the essay. All right. We have one more question. Yes?
What if the evidence given by the writer is not that strong to support this claim? How would that work?
It depends from passage. Okay, the question is, let me repeat it for everyone who could not understand it. He says, what if the evidence is not strong enough to convince the reader? Then you will write it as a weakness, that the evidences that he has provided are not strong enough. But my question to you is, Unless and until you feel that the evidence is irrelevant, it will not be weak. You know why? Because you are given a passage, a prompt, you are supposed to take it at face value and write it as it is. Because the passage is authentic text, which has been published before. Okay? So unless and until you feel that the evidences are way off the topic, do not take it as a weak evidence. You know? Yes? Okay. Within stylistic devices come the way author has used particular words. For example, what a wonderful idea it is to spread happiness. You see, now the word wonderful gives you an impression that the author is already, he's very positive, and he is using the word wonderful to convince the reader that spreading happiness is a wonderful idea. So these are stylistic things. Linguistic comes within stylistic. It's a part of that, sub-part of that. Any more questions? Yes. Yes, they are. Exactly. So ethos, pathos, and logos, all of these. So logos is basically when you're trying to convince the reader using a logic. Okay? Pathos when you're trying to use emotional appeal. And ethos when you're trying to use ethical things or using your own authority. Okay? Should we move forward to the reading section now? Okay. It is not advised or it is not recommended to cut trees because it is ethically and morally incorrect. Okay? We really need to rush now. How about this? We take down questions, we note down questions, and the last 10 minutes I'll answer those questions as well. Okay? Because we need to cover writing and language. Let's start with the writing section now. Okay, so gave you guys a detailed summary of this before, but let's quickly give a review. For the reading section, you get 6 passages, 4 single passages, and 1 paired passage. You get around 65 minutes for this paper, 52 passage-based MCQs. And per passage, you get 10 to 11 questions. Okay? And the passage length is 500 and 750 per passage or per set. Usually, the paired passage is smaller. Paired passages, I will show it to you actually. But let's do it later. Okay. So there's unmistakable focus on careful active reading. Active reading can be done when you read the questions first. Do not start reading the passage as it is. Go to the questions first. Know what you're trying to find from the particular passage. Okay? So that is called active reading. When you know what you're trying to find, you will not get lost. And you will have some sense of direction as to what you want out of it. These are also authentic texts, a range of complexity. So the difficulty of questions varies from passage to passage. And unlike your mathematics, so in math section, the order of difficulty is set. Easier questions first, difficult questions in the end. But in SAT English, there's no order of difficulty. So you can get a difficult question in the beginning. You never know, right? So, which is why it's absolutely fine even if you want to skip a question and then come back to it later. Okay, if you feel that it's taking too much time. Okay, you are tested on textual evidence, your understanding of the textual evidence. It could be explicit, it could be implicit. Explicit is when it's written, it's on the paper. Implicit is when it's implied, when you have to read between the lines and understand why is the author saying this, you know. So the difference between explicit and implicit should be clear, and the questions can be on explicit text and on implicit as well. You can be asked on the meanings of words, phrases, tone, and impact. But another question from the previous session was that if you don't know the meaning of a particular word, how are you supposed to write down the answer or pick the answer? These are words in context, right? Even if you do not know the meaning of a particular word, you go back to the line, you read the entire sentence, or you read 1 or 2 sentences before that to understand the context. And when you understand the context, you can make a pretty good guess as to what a particular word means. But do work on building your vocabulary. You have SAT vocabulary lists available on internet, on any SAT book. College Board provides all sorts of material. Do work on your vocabulary. That's going to help you. It's an open book test, which means that you can keep going back to the passage as many times as you want. Nothing like you have to memorize what was there, and you cannot go back to the passage now. You have your questions in front of you. You have your passage in front of you. You can easily go back to the passage, and you are supposed to go back to the passage, okay? For every question. No opinion or prior knowledge is tested. Sorry. Like I said, SAT tests your thinking capabilities. How well are you able to critically analyze? How well are you able to think under pressure? Because there's a time limit, right? I'm sure the first time you guys attempted any SAT practice test, you were probably unable to finish it in the given time. How many of you faced this? Raise your hands, show of hands. See? So, and how many of you have never practiced an SAT test? Practice test? A few. So let me tell you, when you do it for the first time, your body resists, your mind resists, because you're not prone to it. You're not attuned, your brain, your mind is not attuned to thinking so critically, because unfortunately, we are used to cramming and not really thinking. So problem solving and critical thinking, but within a given time frame. So that's the real trick here. And even if it's difficult right now, it's going to get better, because you will make your mind attuned to it. So when you guys have your fire drills in schools and colleges, you do have it, right? No fire drills ever in any school, in any college? We should have it. We do have it in our school. So fire drills, the concept is that you attune your body, you tame your body to respond to a particular way when in pressure. So SAT is doing the same. As much as you practice, you will start being able to attempt the paper in the given time period. So keep practicing. No order of difficulty, we've already covered that. Okay. Reading test always includes, now these are themes that the passage is usually taken from. Classic or contemporary work of US or world literature. One passage from either US founding document or a text in great global conversion that inspired the US Constitution. So US history, and literature. A selection about economics, psychology, sociology, or some other social science. 2 science passages that examine foundational concepts and developments in earth science, biology, chemistry, or physics. What you can take away from this slide is that a range of subjects that come from social science, science, history, literature, and all the sub-array of subjects can be not tested, but they will be the content of your SAT test. The passages are from all of these. Okay. Here are 10 tips to ace your reading test. Obviously, there are more than 10, but we could only cover 10. So let's do these. You're supposed to read the pretext first. What is a pretext? Here on the slide, you guys have the italicized text. Pretext is before the passage starts, okay? You are going to read it, and what this will do is that it will give you an understanding of what the passage is about. So let's read this. This passage is adapted from somebody, the great inversion and the future of somebody, blah, blah, blah. Urbanologist, a scholar of cities and their development. Demographic inversion is a phenomena that describes the rearrangement of living patterns throughout a metropolitan area. So you do get an idea that this passage is about demographic inversion, okay? And an urbanologist is there. So maybe how the demographic inversion basically means how movement of people from one place to another, temporary or permanent settlements, how they've changed over time. So when you read the pretext, you get a better understanding of what the entire passage is going to be about. Tip number 2, we've already discussed this a lot of times. Go through the questions before reading the passage so that you know what the questions look like. Okay, tip number 3, skim through the passage and make summaries, highlight, or underline. I personally never make summaries or because it's time consuming. What you can do is maybe highlight the text, which you feel is the most important. So when I read this particular paragraph, which is not even complete on the screen right now, but the highlighted line tells me or will remind me of the entire content which is there. Okay? So you will underline or you will highlight the text which you feel explains the paragraph for you, right? Or what you can also do is you underline and highlight, and alongside that you make bullets. Okay, this is what this paragraph was saying, and you move on. Because remember, the clock is ticking, so you need to be very quick. So you read one paragraph, you know what the paragraph said, you write it for yourself, and you move on. Okay? And what this will do is that it will save you time. When you go to the questions again, you would not have to read the entire paragraph again. So you would just read those bullets and the underlined text, and you would know what the answer is. Okay. Tip number 4. Do not attempt general questions first. Here's what a general question looks like. General questions, as the name suggests, are general. They're not specifically specifically from a particular paragraph. They're about the entire passage, right? And such questions are tricky because you need to have a clearer understanding of the entire passage. And to have a clearer understanding of the entire passage, how about you answer the other questions first? And when you answer the other questions, you will have to get back to the passage in detail. So you will have, let's say you will have answered about 7, 8 questions in detail. Paragraph by paragraph, you read it, you will have a better understanding. You will have a better idea of what the entire passage is about. So general questions will ask you about the author's attitude, overall theme, the message that he's trying to convey, his main argument, and these things you will understand when you answer other questions. So you leave this for the end, okay? Do not attempt general questions in the beginning. All right. Here's another example of a general question. It's asking about the main purpose of both passages. Okay, tip number 5. Attempt line-specific questions first. Line-specific questions are where the line is specified. You need to go to this particular line to answer the question. Line in the passage. So the question is, the phrase liquid gold, sentence 9 of paragraph 4, most directly suggests that. You will go to sentence 9 of paragraph 4, which is over here. Okay. Liquid gold is in bold, by the way. Can you all read this? I want you to solve this. This is the question. The question says, the phrase liquid gold, sentence 9 of paragraph 4, most directly suggests that, and I do not advise you to read the answers first, the options first. You should always just read the question, go back to the particular line. When you go back to the line, which is, by the way, the next tip, for line-specific questions, read 2 to 3 lines above and below that specified line. So let's see if liquid gold is over here. We are going to read at least 2 to 3 lines before this and 2 to 3 lines after this. Why? To get an understanding of the context in which this particular sentence is there. So you're supposed to read the highlighted one. Can we turn off lights so that it's visible? Okay, how about I read it? When the transgenic females lactated, the promoter turned the transgene on and the goat's udders filled with milk containing antithrombin. Some experiment is going on these goats, okay? All that was left to do was to collect the milk and extract and purify the protein. Now this means that they're extracting protein out of it, right? Voila, human medicine. And for GTC, liquid gold. We get, you see, what you need to rephrase it for yourself so that you understand what's going on. He says, liquid gold, human medicine. Let's continue. AT-RIN hit the market in 2006, becoming the world's first transgenic animal drug. Full stop. Over the course of a year, the milking parlors on GTC's 300-acre farm in Massachusetts can collect more like a kilogram of medicine from a single animal. All right, what do you understand now? What is meant by liquid gold here? There was some experiment going on. They were not sure whether it's going to be a hit or not, but they carried on this particular experiment and it worked. For the company, it was liquid gold. Okay, now let's read the options. A, GTC has invested a great deal of money in micro-injection technique. Was this what the passage was saying? No, good. GTC's milking parlors have significantly increased milk production. Was he talking about the increased milk production? There was a new thing in the market, right? Transgenic goats will soon be a valuable asset for dairy farmers. Okay, how many of you say yes? Very nice. The correct answer is D. Congratulations, you guys. AT-RIN has proved to be a financially beneficial product for GTC. Why not C? Because we are making an assumption. Nowhere in this passage was written about the future. Did they say that it's soon going to be valuable? Then why did you assume that, right? Do not. So you're not supposed to add any information from your own side. Take the passage at the face value. Literally, that is all you have, okay? And you take it literally. Good job, you guys. Let's move on. Okay, you should always have evidence to back up your answer, okay? So if, for example, the question has 4 options, obviously, you will select one option. When you select one option, you should have some evidence from the passage that, okay, in this particular line, he has said this. Iska matlab hai ki yahi option theek hogi. Okay? So always go back to the passage and you should always have evidence. Sorry, excuse me. Okay, tip number 8. And that is use process of elimination if you are clueless. So sometimes if you're not able to find the evidence from the passage and you don't have time and you're running out of it and you have more passages to read and you're clueless, you have no idea, there is no negative marking, right? So there's no harm in making a guess. How do you make a guess now? ABC karke nahi karna, Darood Sharif padh ke nahi karna. You're supposed to make a guess. You're supposed to make a logical guess. How? You are going to eliminate the options which you know cannot be the answer. Okay? This is called process of elimination. Excuse me. You are going to eliminate, let's say you read option A and you know for sure that this is not what the passage is talking about. You eliminate it, then you eliminate another one. So the probability of your answer getting to be correct is then 50-50, right? Because you're left with 2 options. So you eliminate and the probability of your correct answer goes up. And then from those 2 options, Bismillah padh ke koi bhi select kar le, you know. But do not leave any question unanswered, right? Because if you see, there's no harm, there's no negative marking. So you can always pick one. So use process of elimination, it always helps. Okay. Tip number 9, dual passages one at a time. I've talked about paired passages. So for those of you who have never seen a paired passage, here's what it looks like. Excuse me. So passage 1, passage 2, back-to-back passages, they're linked somehow. They're probably about the same theme. And then after that, you will get 10 to 11 questions. Okay? And these questions, by the way, initially, so the first 2-3 questions are going to be from the first passage. The second 3 to 4 questions are going to be from the second passage. And then questions are going to be about both the passages. So a comparison of the themes, a comparison of the content will be asked. So maybe similarities, some differences, so you need to compare, right? But do it one at a time. Read one passage, answer the questions that are supposed to be taken from passage 1. Okay? When you're done with those passage 1 questions, then go to passage 2, read it, answer the questions, and then attempt the questions which require comparison. We've covered all of this. So paired passages, around 10 to 12 questions will be asked. Comparison and contrast is required. Let's move on. The last tip, and then we move on to the writing section. You're supposed to predict an answer before reading the answer options. I think we just attempted a question previously, and I told you guys not to read the options, right? When you read the options, your own understanding of the passage goes somewhere else, and you get confused. So the tip is that when you read the question, do not read the options, and you go back to the passage. You read it again, the summaries that you made, you make sense of it, you tell yourself. Always, by the way, talk to yourself during this entire process. It helps. When you talk to yourself, you tell yourself, no, I think this cannot be it. So it gets clearer, right? What did I just do? Yeah, so you are supposed to predict the answer then before reading the options. Once you predict the answer for yourself, then you read the options. When you read the options, the one that's closest to your predicted answer will mostly or usually be the right option. Okay? So, number 1, you read the question. Number 2, you go back to the passage. Number 3, you predict. Number 4, you choose. You compare your prediction with the options that are present on the paper. Okay? And with that, let's do a quick recap. Read pretext, go straight to the questions, make reading summaries. If not summaries, underline or make bullets. Do not attempt general questions first. Attempt line-specific questions first. Read 2 to 3 lines above and below the specified lines. Always have evidence to back your answer. Okay? Use process of elimination. Do dual passages one at a time. And predict an answer before reading answer options. Right? These are obviously not all the tips and strategies that you can use, but you will be able to attempt one paper, which we will attempt around 4:30. What's the time? Sorry, 5:30. Yeah, 4:30. So we will attempt one passage today. And any questions now regarding reading comprehensions? Yes, please. Okay. His question is, what's your name, sorry? Ali. So Ali is asking, how do you read a passage or understand a passage if you're completely lost? And it happens. So you start reading a passage, you don't understand the language, you don't understand what's going on. You use your own language. Okay? So you make a story. That's what I tell my students. When you read a passage, पहला paragraph पढ़ा, ठीक है? You don't get anything. दूसरा paragraph पढ़ा, कुछ समझ आया. जो कुछ समझ आया, you read the first paragraph again, make a story. Okay, this is what happened. Now this is happening. अब ये बात कर रहा है. अब ये बात करने की कोशिश कर रहा है. If you find the words difficult, you leave them. You just understand the context. Okay? So if you are unable to comprehend a particular passage, you make a story. You tell yourself what this is about. And it will come to you eventually. You know? So that is one thing that you can do. More questions? Yes? What are rhetorical questions? Okay, so basically, they are the questions that are tested on the implicit content. Right? So sometimes the passage will have something written over there, but what is the implied message? Implied message ka matlab hai कि why did the author write this? Why did he make this particular point? What was the reason? So the reason is not on the paper, right? But you need to imply it, understand it, read it between the lines. So let's, for example, I was born in Lahore, right? Can you imply that I am a Lahori? Yes. Right? This is what I mean by saying you have to imply the meaning. Okay? More questions and we move forward. Yes?
Won't it take a long time to read the questions first and then the passage?
It will save you time. Yes, it will save you time. How? Because when you read the passage first without reading the questions, you wouldn't know what to look for. Okay? You will read it passively. So for example, if you start reading an article just like that, you don't know what to take out of it, you will read it, you probably get lost in second, third paragraph. What was going on? Why am I reading this? When you read the questions first, quickly, and when I say read the questions first, I do not mean read the options. You only read the statement, the question statement, then you go back. Okay? It will save you time because while reading the passage, you will know, oh, this is the answer to that question. Get it? And you might actually be able to apply the entire knowledge and you maybe answer line-specific questions. Because for line-specific questions, you don't need the entire passage. You only need 2 to 3 lines above it, 2 to 3 lines below it. And maybe you get done with those questions. And you're left with, let's say, 7 or 6 questions then. So it saves you time. Yes? Should we move forward to the writing line? Yes, one more question.
And sometimes it also uses robots and pathos by giving some statics and some logical statements, and these are put, the author uses these from another author to make it clear and to make it very persuasive for the reader. But is it appreciable to use these statistics and logical statements as if they are used by the author of the essay in our response, in our answer? And are these appreciable? Does the chapter of the essay grabs or subtracts very good attention towards that?
Okay, I get your question, but this question is related to the essay section, right? But I'll answer it nevertheless. So he's saying that is it advisable to rewrite the evidence that the author has used in his essay? That's your question, right? This is what you're supposed to do. Yes, you're supposed to do this. You're supposed to write down that the author has mentioned this evidence because he wanted to convince this point or because he wanted to prove this point. So you are supposed to quote it in your essay. This is called textual evidence. You're supposed to give this textual evidence and you will get marks for it. Okay?
Shouldn't we use our own words that should clearly and very extremely demonstrate the whole statement that's logical or...
Okay. In order to answer, he's saying, shouldn't we use our own words? When you are writing something from the essay, you are going to paraphrase it in your own words. You're not going to write down the entire text as it is. Okay? So you're going to paraphrase it. By paraphrase it, I mean you're going to rewrite it in your own words. So the author has said something, you're going to write it in your own. You read it, you understand what he's saying, you write it yourself in your own words. Get it? Okay, any more questions? We need to move forward. Yes?
In case of great passages, how much time should we spend on one passage and answering the questions related to that passage?
Okay. So like I said, one passage at a time, right? So let's say you have about, you have 1 minute, something seconds for one question, right? So you can read one passage in 4 minutes, answer the 3 questions that are related to that passage, then you read the other 4, and then you give the rest of the 4 minutes to the questions that relate to both the passages. So yeah, that should be the time division, ideally. All right, let's move towards the writing in language section, which is going to be our last. Okay, so in the writing and language section, you are supposed to read the passage that's given. You are supposed to identify the mistakes and you're supposed to fix them. Again, this is an MCQ based paper, you're not supposed to write anything, okay? There are 4 passages वही passages की themes हैं that we've discussed so far. 11 questions per passage, total number of questions are 44. The time duration is 35 minutes and 47 seconds for one question. So for these, you don't really have a question statement per se, okay? The questions are underlined in such a way, and then you only get 4 options to choose from. So something is wrong with the sentence that's underlined, and writing a language test requires you to identify the mistake and correct it. And the options will give you one correction, and the others will be obviously false. You are tested on sentence structure, usage, and punctuation, the rules of punctuation. Let's begin. Okay. Do we know what parallelism is? Okay, let's do this. Do we have an eraser here? Yes, we do. So on the slides, you have this one example that says she likes running, swimming, and hiking. So let's say on your writing a language test, this sentence could have been, she likes running, swimming, and to hike. Get it? So if I say she likes running, swimming, and to hike, what is wrong with it? There's no consistency. There's no parallelism. You have to have a parallel structure, right? And you need to fix that. So the questions that will test you on parallel structures are going to be as simple as this. She likes running, swimming, and hiking. You will figure out what the problem is, and you will fix it. Next. Or how about I give you a question on parallelism? Okay, tell me what's wrong with this. The vineyards of Napa Valley are at once breathlessly vibrant, symmetrical, and the green is profound. Should I write this on the board? Yeah? Okay. It's a longer sentence, but I'll try. Breathlessly vibrant, symmetrical, and the green is profound. It's a slightly difficult example, but I want you guys to give it a try. And I apologize for my pathetic handwriting. Okay, the vineyards are breathlessly vibrant, symmetrical, and the green is profound. What's wrong with this sentence? Okay, can anybody come here and correct this? Quickly, we don't have time. Anyone? Ajay, hurry up. What's your name? Umar. Thank you, Umar. The vineyards are breathlessly vibrant, symmetrical, and the green is profound. First of all, what's wrong with this? Green is profound. This is wrong? What should it be? Should there be the as well? So the is also wrong. Brilliant. Thank you, Umar. And profoundly green. Great. Let's clap for him. Do we all understand? So, I'm sorry. So we have profoundly green and not just profound green because we have breathlessly vibrant here. You see, you need to maintain the parallel structure. You need to identify, first of all, what the structure is in the particular sentence, and then you need to follow that and apply that throughout the sentence. So that is parallelism. Verb consistency. Inappropriate shifts in verb tense, mood, and voice. Let me give you an example. So the verb has to be consistent throughout the sentence. I am going to give an example now. He wakes up in the morning and went for a walk. What's wrong with this? He goes for a walk, right? Because he wakes up, and then it should be consistent with the rest of the verb that's being used in the later part of the sentence. So if I write it, it's going to be very time consuming. We all get it, right? So verb consistency within a particular sentence or within a particular paragraph as well sometimes is tested. Okay? Let's move on. Inappropriate shifts in pronoun, person, and number. Let me give you an example of this. So pronouns are what? So pronouns, they replace nouns, right? So children were playing, they had a good time. So what's the pronoun here? They, right? Okay. Inappropriate shift का मतलब यहाँ पे ये है कि let's say I write down you should not tell a lie. However, one can, depending on the situation, depending on the intention, okay? This is not my opinion, by the way. What is wrong with this sentence? Can anybody come here and tell us quickly? Quickly. Anyone? Yes, come. Hurry up. Okay. You're supposed to tell us. Are you not coming? You should not tell a lie. Sorry. However, one can, depending on the intention. What is wrong with this sentence? Okay. Do it yourself. Okay, so what should be replaced by one? You, exactly. So pronoun consistency is very important. You cannot. So this is an inappropriate. So when you thank you so much. Thank you. Yes. Okay. Transitional word or phrases between paragraphs. Transitional words are the ones. So for example, I am late to the class. Full stop. I got punished, and I got punished. Can we join the two sentences using any transitional word? I am late to the class, and I got punished. And can we have any other transitional words? Therefore, right? So transitional words are these. By the way, for your SAT writing and language test, sometimes it's not just a transitional word, it's a transitional sentence or a transitional phrase. So usually ये transitional sentences जो हैं वो paragraph का first sentence question होता है. For that, sorry, you need to read the previous paragraph and see कि उस paragraph में क्या बात हो रही थी. उस paragraph में जो बात हो रही थी, you have to make a link to the next paragraph. So the transition has to be smooth. Transition means moving from one place to the other. So one idea to the other, the flow should be there, the link should be there, right? Okay, let's move on to this. Okay, possessive determinants. What is the difference between it's with an apostrophe and its? So let's say, if I say, this is my water bottle. Its cost is 30 rupees. It's very cold. पहले वाला it's कौन सा है, बाद वाला it's कौन सा है? Not like this, not like this. Okay, please show of hands. Who wants to answer? Somebody else. Sorry. Yes, you, the one at the very end. It's very cold. Second one is with an apostrophe. Yes, so when I say it's very cold, it means it is very cold, and therefore, and there's an apostrophe, so that's a contraction. You need to know the difference between possessive words and where there's the use of apostrophe. Also, there are some very confusing words like which So they sound the same, but they're actually different. So you need to be careful about that as well. And writing a language test will have questions based on this. So words like affect and effect. So A wala effect, E wala effect. Then you have, give me more examples. Sorry? Sight. So there's one site with S-I-G-H-T and another site which is S-I-T-E. There's another site actually that is C-I-T-E, you see. So many confusing words. So sometimes these words will be underlined and you need to read the context, read the entire sentence to know which spellings, which word should be there, right? Okay, now this one is important. Agreement, ensuring agreement between subject and verb, between pronoun and antecedent, and between nouns. People often like parties because they get to see old friends. What is the pronoun here? They. And antecedent? Antecedent? People, yes. So antecedent, basic, ante means before, right? So before the pronoun, what's the one noun there? That's people. So you need to have consistency regarding that. Let's move on. All right. Punctuations now. Remember in the first slide, I told you guys that there are three things: sentence structure, usage, and punctuation. So far, we have covered sentence structure with parallelism, with verb consistency, inappropriate shifts, transitional phrases and words, and conventions of usage. Pronouns, possessive nouns, then you have agreement between subject and verb, antecedent and pronoun, and frequently confused words. And now we're going to do punctuations. So when do we use a colon and a semicolon? Okay, remember this now. Colon is used when you have to enlist something. So let's say my favorite subjects are colon, English, Urdu, math, physics, chemistry, XYZ. Okay? Or let's say you're making a list of groceries, etc. So colon is always there for a list. However, semicolon has different purposes. Semicolon, sometimes it joins two independent clauses, right? Sometimes it is also used with the conjunctions in a sentence. So for example, I was late to the class, however, my teacher did not punish me. So you will have a semicolon before however, right? So semicolons, they serve different purposes, but do not confuse them with colons. Colons are used for, so you're adding something more information, you're giving a list, you use colon for that. Okay. And sometimes, especially in writing a language test, comma is used unnecessarily and excessively. So you need to know where the comma is required, where it isn't required. If you feel that the pause, so comma gives you a pause. If you feel that the pause is unnatural, you take it out. Okay? All right. Non-restrictive and parenthetical elements. Let's do this. What's your name? What's your name? Yes. Sorry? Zed. Zed, where are you from? Lahore. And Zed, what do you like to do? Hobby. Play tennis. Okay. I'm going to write a sentence on the board and you're going to tell me where should I put the commas. Is this how you spell your name? YD. Okay. Zed, who is from Lahore, likes to play tennis. Okay, who can correct this? Okay, first of all, tell me where do we need any commas here? Yes, good. Where do we need the commas? Can you come here and tell us? Okay, let him do it. What's your name?
Zen.
Okay, Zen, give it a try. Great. Brilliant. So Zed, who is from So Zaid, who is from Lahore, why? Zaid, can you tell me why? Is that the only reason? It's not the only reason. You need 2 commas here because even if you take out this information, this is an additional information. The purpose of this sentence is to tell that Zaid likes to play tennis. This is an additional information, and if you take this out and you start reading from here, Zaid, and you start regain from here, Zaid likes to play tennis, will it change the meaning of the sentence? No, right? So such clauses which do not change the meaning of the sentence can be put in restrictive, non-restrictive clauses, right? So basically, this is a non-restrictive clause. And another sentence, okay. Students who practice more than 30 SAT practice tests oh God, my writing. Practice sets tend to perform better. Okay, where should I put this, the comma? Do we need do we have any restrictive clause here? Why not? We do not have any restrictive clause because students who practice more than 30 practice sets tend to perform better. If we take out this here, who practice 30 SAT practice sets. Okay, if we take out this, तो क्या रह जाएगा? Students tend to perform better, right? Therefore, this is a restrictive clause, and we need this particular information for the sentence to make some sense. Okay? So that's that. And unnecessary punctuations, be careful and be mindful of that as well. Okay, just 7 tips to ace your SAT writing. Tip number 1. For consistency of style within a series of sentences, read the 2 preceding sentences. Determine the pattern that's been set. And choose the answer that's most consistent with that pattern. This question, there are some question types which ask you about correcting the consistency or correcting, again, this is linked with parallelism as well. Let's do a question on this. Okay, we have to attempt question number 1 only, right? The passage says, a subway system is expanded to provide service to growing suburb. A bike sharing program is adopted to encourage non-motorized transportation. To alleviate rush hour traffic jams in a congested downtown area, stoplight timing is coordinated. Do you think this sentence is consistent and is exactly in the same pattern that which the preceding 2 sentences are in? Let's break this down. A subway system, so something is expanded to provide something, right? Subway system is a noun here, and then we have a passive verb here. Second sentence, a bike sharing program, again, a noun, something is being introduced to solve something. And in the third sentence, what is being introduced? Stoplight timing. And do we need any change in this sentence, do you think? How can we correct this? Let's not read the options because you need to first of all make a guess yourself and then match your answer with the ones that is closest. So what do you think? What should come? So in this, अगर हमने sentence structure rephrase करना है, तो sentence structure rephrase करने में पहले क्या आएगा? We will have the noun first. We will have, so for example, subway system, bike sharing program, then you have stoplight timing, exactly. So stoplight timing is coordinated to alleviate rush hour traffic jams in a congested downtown area. This option is closest and is consistent with the preceding 2 sentences that are there in the paragraph. Do you understand? So C is the correct option here. Let's move on. Okay. This is on parallelism. Attempt questions on parallelism by making each compared item or idea in your sentence follow the same grammatical pattern. ठीक है, आपने same grammatical pattern follow करना है. If it's in past tense, you will follow past tense. If it's, let's say, present continuous, you're going to follow that. Okay. Read this and try to attempt it yourself. Okay. Who wants to give it a try? This is very simple. Is it not easy? Yes. You. C. Designing. So let's read this. The work of transportation planners generally includes evaluating current transportation needs, assessing the effectiveness of existing facilities and improving those facilities, or designing new ones. Parallelism follow hai, parallel structure ke accordingly, we are going to go with designing. Any questions so far? Great. Let's go ahead. Tip number 3. For questions testing economy of expression, offers a clear and concise wording without redundancy or wordiness. Acha, sometimes the question asks you to change the expression, so to basically make the message more clear. What the author is saying, so he's written a particular sentence and it's underlined, but you know clearly when you read it that it needs some correction because there's too many words, it needs to be more concise. This is one such question. You start reading from if analysis. You need to rephrase this to improve the expression. If analysis of the traffic count indicates that there is more traffic than the current road as it is designed at this time can efficiently accommodate the transportation planner. This is too long a sentence, you know? So it definitely needs a change. So option A is eliminated. How can we improve this? So what was the tip? You use you go with the concise option. The most concise option on this page for this question is option D, current design of the road. And what you need to do is you take this particular phrase and you fix it in the sentence and see if it makes sense. If analysis of the traffic count indicates that there is more traffic than the current design of the road can efficiently accommodate, the transportation planner might recommend widening the road to add another lane. It makes sense. And why not B and C? Not B because current design of the road right now. What is current? Right now, there is repetition. So you eliminate B. C, road as it is now currently designed. You see, again, there is repetition. So D is the correct option. Okay, tip number 4. If a question asks you to choose the most appropriate transitional word or phrase at the beginning of a sentence, carefully consider how that sentence relates to the previous sentence. We've talked about this when we discussed transitional words and transitional phrases. You need to make a link. You need to know what was going on in the previous paragraph. What was the author saying? What was the theme? What was the idea? What was the claim? What was the argument that was going on, right? And then the next sentence will have one transitional phrase in that. Here's a question. So this is a transitional word. You need to read. So the question is, question number 7, underlined word is next. You need to add or replace another transitional word here. Okay, let's do this now. So the tip was that you read the preceding sentence first, so as to make some link. Transportation planners work closely with a number of community stakeholders, such as government officials and other interested organizations and individuals. So, is sentence mein, what is he saying? He's saying that transportation planners, they work closely with government officials, right? And interested organizations. Next, representatives from the local public health department might provide input in designing a network of trails and sidewalks to encourage people to walk more. Who are or what is the local public health department? Is it not part of the government? It is, right? So, first of all, yes, we need a change here. So, option A is not the correct one. We eliminate option A. B, for instance, this is the correct option, but we can also see why other two options are not correct. For instance is correct because public health department is an example, is a type, or is actually telling us that yes, planners do work with the government, and in which capacity? What part of the government? So he's telling us, for instance, public health department works with them, right? So it's basically an example, a type of an example for that. Furthermore, we use furthermore when we're adding another point. Do we have an addition of another point? No, it's the same point, same argument. Just an example of that. And similarly is when we are discussing two same ideas. This is not a similar idea, not a similar point, but an example, an extension of that, right? Which is why we are going to use for instance here. Okay, let's move on. Tip number 5. Okay, for questions testing subject-verb agreement or pronoun antecedent agreement, correctly identify the singular plural rule first of all. So यहाँ पे on the screen, when an employee, which is singular, does not agree with their boss's decision, the employee should not support that decision. So the first step in any such question is that you identify the rule. Is this correct, by the way? When an employee does not agree with their boss's decision, is this correct? No, it's not correct. So with the employee, we'll obviously have his or her, right? And then it would be correct. Let's do this question now. You will start reading from when. Okay, let's see. When any one of these changes occur, it is likely the result of careful analysis conducted by transportation planners. What is the correct option? That's right. So you have rightfully identified the link between one and occur. So I can't possibly say that one of my friend is a doctor. I would obviously say one of my friends is a doctor, right? Excuse me. Okay, tip number 6. You must distinguish between restrictive, essential, and non-restrictive, non-essential sentence elements and avoid unneeded punctuation. We did this one, 2 examples on the board already. Let's do this one question now. People who pursue careers in transportation planning have a wide variety of educational backgrounds. Do we need a comma here? Okay, so what's the correct option then? What's the correct option, you guys? Okay, how many of you say A? Good job. That's right. A is the correct option here because you do not need a pause after planning. You do not need a comma after planning. It's going in a flow. You let it go. There is, remember, no unnecessary punctuations, right? You avoid that and you will be safe. Tip number 7. You must recognize and correct inappropriate uses of possessive nouns and pronouns as well as differentiate between possessive and plural forms. We've done examples of that. Let's do this. Now this should be correct. Yes. The transportation planner's job might involve conducting a traffic count to determine the daily number of vehicles traveling on the road to the new factory. Okay, how many? Okay, I want a show of hands. How many of you think A is the correct option? Why? Can you give a reason for that? You also think that A is the correct option? Okay, no, just the ones who think that A is the correct option. So there's no one now. Okay, A is not the correct option. How many of you think B is the correct option? Brilliant, B is the right option. Because for the same reason, you don't need an additional unnecessary comma or a pause there. So that is that. Questions? Yes. Okay, wait. Planner's job क्यों नहीं हुआ? Okay. D option is not the correct one because, and let me explain. The transportation planner's job. Okay, you are saying this should be it. If you translate this in Urdu, what is it? Transportation planner's job. किसकी job है? Planner की job है, right? तो यहाँ पे क्या आना चाहिए? ये उसका है, possessive noun है ना? Get it? So planner की job है, which is why we need an apostrophe here. Get it? Planners will be a plural then. Get it? So that is why you need an apostrophe here. This is incorrect. You need an apostrophe here. Transportation planner's job. Now it's fine. Clear? Okay. जी बच्चे. During a proposition. Punctuation. Okay. I think it will come with practice. A. B. Sometimes when you read the sentence and if you feel that it is conveying the message and you don't need and there's no need of a pause, then you go ahead with it. But if you think that there's a need of a pause, you read it in your head and you understand it, you analyze it. But it comes with practice. It comes with practice. And like it's there, you need to practice as many sets as you can. Yes. I'm sorry? About? I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Combining two sentences. Okay, so two different sentences, you can obviously combine them using conjunctions, right? Conjunctions like however, therefore, because, consequently, what else? And is also a conjunction. So you can always combine two sentences using conjunctions or apostrophe, semicolons. Of course there are. Yes, there are. Your writing and language test will not question you on this. Okay? So if it is not questioning you on this, you don't need to know that. Like for now, at least for this session. Any other questions? Yes. Yeah, they can be. They can be put together. So sometimes before the conjunction, you can have a comma. And then after the comma, you can write down the conjunction. So for example, I was late to the class, comma, therefore, the teacher penalized me. Okay? Yes. Which one? Yeah, because we could not cover as many things in this session. That's why. That's why. Yes. No. Okay, so you use a hyphen when you have to break a sentence, right? So there's a particular, again, an additional information which has got nothing to do with the other two clauses of that particular sentence. So hyphen is used to add an additional information. Again, it's not the same as comma. No, it's not the same as comma. Okay, let's try. Sarah was interested in biology. Okay, Sarah was interested in biology, hyphen. Her school had biology lessons. You close the hyphen, and then there is, and she wanted to become a doctor. So the additional information there has got literally nothing to do with the beginning of the sentence and the later clause of the sentence. It's also, you can also not separate it with a comma because it makes no sense. But it's an additional information for the reader. Therefore, it's in both the hyphens. Do we give them the worksheet right now? After the break.
We have a couple of questions from people who are watching live, so I'm just going to read them out for you.
Sure.
So Adnan Manzoor has asked, which book do you recommend for SAT English preparation?
Okay, so for preparation, for SAT English preparation, College Board, first of all, they publish all the material. There are a lot of books in the market as well, but you will get all the practice sets on the internet, right? And other than that, anything that's published on behalf of the College Board, you can find in the market and you can get it.
Yes, I think Princeton is a good book, or Barron's is a good book that you can refer to, I guess. And the next question from Nimra Ali is, what types of essays are given in the SAT test?
Okay, there are argumentative essays, which you need to read and analyze, and then you need to write a response on that. So argumentative essays. And the types of these essays, they're all published essays. They could be from, let's say, literature or any history, etc.
Okay, and Mahad has asked that if the author has a particular weakness in his style of writing in the essay, so how do we explain that and how do we write that in our essay?
Okay, so you can say that the author, the way the author has presented his argument could have been conveyed in a better way. He could have used XYZ stylistic elements in order to convince the reader that, in order to basically prove his point.
Great. Any questions from people who are in the auditorium? Yes.
Usually, you can have a comma before the conjunction. Yes. I'm sorry? Oxford comma? Before and. No, I think we usually do not use that before and. And is an exception. Yes.
Sometimes we use four commas in single sentences. If right, for example, if I say Qaeda Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, founder of Pakistan, and then I continue and then add according to me between two commas or around two commas rounding, and then end the sentence. Is it right or?
So you're saying you end the sentence where?
How we can use commas four times in a single sentence? For example, if for example we say.
Okay, you will use a lot of commas in a single sentence only when you're having a list over there. Okay, and So for example, what you're saying is, I can't possibly write it. So let's say, okay, I like many foods. I like many food items, right? Colon, and then I'll write a list of food items that I like. Pizza, comma, with cheese. And then I will add a semicolon to that, because I'm going to separate a list within commas. So let's see, let's do this. Okay, I like a lot of food items, colon, because a list is coming now. Pizza with cheese. And now I will use another semicolon now, because I'm going to separate the list. Then, what else? Biryani, comma, without aloo. Another semicolon. So you see, you can also use semicolons in this way. So if you have to separate items within a list, you use semicolons there as well. Okay?
It wasn't my case. I was intending to ask that if we use Qaeda Azam, the founder of Pakistan, was insisted on, according to me, it was very good.
You don't include the last comma. Then it's fine. Okay? All right. Yes. सेमीकॉलन इसलिए आया है क्योंकि within a list you have to separate the items. No. So this is another rule. This is another convention that if you have a list and you need to separate that, you use semicolon. Okay? Let's conclude this for now. Do they get the worksheet? Okay. You are going to get a worksheet which we are going to solve in the next 1 hour that we have. We are going to cover one writing section, one passage only, and one reading section. Okay? One passage only. And I'm going to give you guys 15 minutes to solve that. And in the next 15 minutes, we're going to discuss the answers. I think you're supposed to be seated for now so that they can distribute the worksheets. And you are supposed to read it during your break time. And when you come back, you will get your questions to solve. Thank you very much.